That wasn't the only story on the docket over the weekend. The Phoenix Suns. Feels like you have to take like that deep breath before you talk about the Phoenix Suns because they are so exhausting to watch. I think, let me start here. Early on in the season, I was all in on this. All right, we got to make a change. I was the one that advocated for Bradley Beal to go to the bench. It didn't work out. But to be fair, in my defense, nothing has really worked out for this team. Nothing. This team is somehow worse than it was last year with what I believe is a significantly better roster. There is no reason for this team to be a out-of-play-in positioning team. This team has got talent. And oftentimes, Suns Twitter is crazy, man. Crazy. I saw someone tweet the other day. I don't even know who it was. But I saw this tweet from one of the bigger Suns accounts. And it was like, well, this Suns team would just be a lot better if they had more wings and less guards. Yeah, duh, man. Duh. You're telling me this team could use some size, some length, and some rebounding ability? Yeah. Duh. You're not necessarily breaking any news here. This Suns team needs to get bigger, and they need to get better defensively. Instead, they've got nothing but guards. And people are like, those same accounts are like, well, listen, it's the Suns front office's fault for not getting more guard or not getting more bigger wings. Do you think the Suns front office is so based on a bunch of buffoons and employed by a bunch of buffoons that they don't know that 6'8 wings, 6'9 wings, 6'7 wings are valuable in the NBA? Do you think right now, if they could have Toumani Camara or Cam Johnson or Mikal Bridges or whoever, name a good wing player, you don't think that they would rather have that over 6'3", what am I saying? Over 6'0" Tyus Jones? Yeah. The Suns roster construction is not very good, but it's not because the Suns front office doesn't recognize that they could use a Cam Johnson, that they could use a Mikal Bridges. This Suns team is not good because they had to give up those assets to get the players that they have. That being Kevin Durant. So they're stuck with what they have. And also, do you know what every team would use two of in the NBA? A 6'8 wing that can shoot the three ball and defend. They're much more valuable than you think. So this ridiculous, just dumb revisionist history that continues happening with this Suns fan base is just absurd. Which is why last week when we were on Locked On Suns advocating for what the Phoenix Suns have to do, and a lot of it was, well, you know what? They got to move Tyus Jones to the bench, and I agreed with them. I don't think that that's necessarily the wrong thing to say or agree to or disagree with, but, I mean, nothing is going to change this team. It is such an unfortunate thing to say, and I've been largely optimistic about the Suns' future. I don't think that they are just screwed beyond fixing in the offseason. I think you can move Kevin Durant and get a good amount of assets back to help this team. But I've just got to be honest with you guys. This team is not getting fixed. And I think you know that. I just don't think you want it to be true. Because we had higher expectations coming into this season, and having a true point guard in Tyus Jones, and having Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, and a star-loaded roster, and Bradley Beal, people continue to tell me was washed. It turns out he wasn't. It's just not a good fit here in Phoenix, which I've been trying to tell everyone for weeks on end. What am I saying? Months on end. And that brings me to my last point. My last point of the show, my last point of the day. I don't want to admit this. I don't like this. It's not fun. It's not a good take. It's not something that I think is spicy and will get clicks. I just think the Suns team is done. They're not making the play-in, and they're sure as hell not making the playoffs. Look at some of the teams ahead of them. The Kings, who, they've got star players, LaVine, DeRozan. I don't think the Kings are going to win the championship or even make it past the first round or even make it out of the play-in tournament. But they're better than the Suns. The Dallas Mavericks, once Anthony Davis comes back, much better than the Suns. Golden State Warriors, when they added Jimmy, got some real juice to them, better than the Suns. And whatever teams ahead of them at that point, I forgot who it was. It's the Mavericks, Warriors. Who was the other team? I literally had it in the back of my head 2 seconds ago. But those teams are just better than the Suns. So it was the Clippers, Timberwolves, Mavericks, Golden State Warriors, Sacramento Kings. Tell me which one of those teams. Clippers, 6 seed, Timberwolves, 7, Mavericks, 8, Golden State Warriors, 9, Sacramento Kings, 10, and then the Phoenix Suns at 11. Tell me which one of those teams the Phoenix Suns are definitely better than. And with the hardest schedule remaining in the NBA regular season, the Phoenix Suns have the hardest. Not only are they the worst team out of those 5 teams I just laid out, Clippers, Wolves, Mavericks, Warriors, and Sacramento Kings. The Phoenix Suns are not only the worst team out of all of those, they have the hardest schedule remaining. They're not making the play-in. And I got to be honest with you, mercifully, I'm kind of okay with that. I don't want to watch this team make the play-in and then lose. I don't want to watch this team make the play-in, win the play-in, and then go to the NBA playoffs as the 7 or 8 seed and get absolutely dismantled by the Oklahoma City Thunder and whoever the heck the 2nd seed is going to be. They'd get dismantled by both teams. They maybe win 1 game against the Thunder, maybe. And if the Memphis Grizzlies right now, I could see the Suns getting hot and winning 2 games, but the other 4 games that they lose won't be close. And I don't think they're even going to win 6 games. I'm sorry. I don't even think they're going to take the Grizzlies to 6 games. Or whoever it is. But I could see a Kevin Durant or a Devin Booker get a little hot, and that's what happens. It's over, man. It's over. This team has no shot of being competitive. They've got no shot of making the play-in. They don't fit. They're small. Defensively, especially on the perimeter, they're not just lackluster. They are downright awful. They can't box out to save their lives. And most of the time, they're not playing with a ton of effort. And Coach Budenholzer, who I don't blame for the Suns season going awry, his rotations don't make any sense. Ryan Dunn will play for 7 minutes, and then, Bol Bol play for 7 minutes, and then the next day they're both playing 30 minutes. None of it makes any sense. And it's just the reasoning why this team, I can't take it seriously. Not just as a playoff team, but as a play-in team. And it's why it's done. And it probably needs to happen this way. Unless, of course, the Suns make the playoffs, I'm, of course, rooting for that to happen. So a 1 through 6 seed, I'm rooting for that. But if that doesn't happen, I am sort of rooting for the Phoenix Suns as a Phoenix Suns media member and as a Phoenix Suns fan, as someone who's been watching this team my entire life. I am kind of rooting for this team to miss the play-in. And it's like, why would you say that? Because I want clarity. Matt Ishbia clearly did not get it through his head. Him and the Suns front office clearly didn't get it through their head that last year when they won 0 games in the playoffs last season, they decided to run it back. They thought they needed a point guard. It didn't work. And so I want no room left for a potential this Phoenix Suns big 3 and roster could work. I want them to flame out unless they make the playoffs. I want them to flame out so horrendously that the Suns front office has no reason but to blow this thing up and completely retool it and turn it into a team that can actually be competitive next year. Not win a championship, but be competitive. I'm over it. I'm over guessing if this team is ever going to figure it out. They're not going to. We have 2.5 years of data with, Devin Booker in the Devin Booker and Kevin Durant era. 2.5 years of data. It's not working. This team's not working. It's time to move on. And unless they go on some sort of heater and they make the playoffs, and sure, I can get back on board, but I just don't buy that. I do hope that they just flame out horrendously. Flame out horrendously. Just so this team has clarity, knows exactly what they are, and that is not close. And allows them to retool and be a competitive team in the future. Because right now, what it is is not working. And I don't like rooting for that. That sucks. I don't want to be a team that's no fun to watch, but I'm looking towards the future. And that's what you should be doing too.